Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of The Geek Buddies! Hey! That's right, we're coming to you live from here in my... Well, live as you're hearing this. It's live to tape. But we're in my office tonight. And once again, if you are missing a third voice... That's because Michael Vogel is unfortunately not with us tonight because he's been. Am I allowed to say what he's been doing? I don't like to get in trouble with him. I never know what you guys have things.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can say what he's doing. Just don't say how he's doing.
All right, fine. He's in Miami.
Sense?
He's in Miami pitching animated series. That's right. So
yes.
he's he's a kind of a very popular guy within the animation world.
Yes. This
is happening now. So he is down there doing that. So he couldn't join us this week, but he'll be back in town on Friday, and then we're hitting the ground running back again with the Geek Buddies. And, I'm John Rocha. I'm a writer, producer, and host of numerous podcasts and shows around town. And also, what else do I? Oh, voiceover art. I do some voiceover as well, leaning back into that as well.
Yes, and this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer. Perhaps one of the things I've written on, Vogel is pitching in Miami right now. Perhaps another one of the things I've written on, Mr. Rocha, has been a couple of voices in.
I have.
Perhaps, but I'm also a television actor where you may have seen me on Silicon Valley. Yep. You may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine just last week. Yep. And I'm going to be on The Goldbergs next week.
The Goldbergs!
Yes.
Yeah, that's good stuff. You've been trying out for The Goldbergs for quite some time.
Well, I was in the
finally
Goldbergs.
Booked it. You were in the Goldbergs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in the audience obviously doesn't know this, but I was in The Goldbergs season 1.
Okay.
Smaller role in the cold open, but it was funny. It was a joke with Beverly and Erica, who's like the mother and the daughter, Winnie McClendon Covey. Okay. And I remember getting the role and getting the whole script, and I read it, and I'm like, oh, this is really funny. My part gives away a plot point very early in the episode. And the next morning, I got the rewrite, and my part had been whittled down to one line.
Jesus.
And then they didn't even use that line.
So you knew. So they didn't even... So they recorded you. Did they even use you? Is that the question?
Oh,
they
use. Oh, yeah.
Is that better? Do you think? Or
turn it back
Let's
on.
see. Is that better?
I think the other way.
You think
having it off? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think that's a little more real
All
looking.
Right, there we go. A little more real looking. That's
so I shot. I mean, I got paid, but shooting, I'm kind of like, this ain't. There's no sense of this being in there, especially if they are if they're running long on time. Or
this anything. Is the life we live. Well, I used to live, but you still live. Booking these things, so you never know if you're going to end up on screen. You never know what's going to get cut. Yeah. Your whole family could be watching, and you've got one word, or all your lines are cut, which are the worst.
First time, if we have time, I can share this quick story.
Please.
The first time I was cut was in Heart of Dixie, which was a CW series with Rachel Bilson. I want to say I was in season 3 or season 4.
Shock that it ran that way.
But basically, she had left the small town. Yeah. She'd gone back to the big city. And I was a doctor who was kind of not nice to her.
Right.
I was sort of offering her an opportunity, and then I kind of yanked it away, like ha 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 ha. And it was a fun role. Rachel Bilson was very, very nice.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'm here in LA. My parents are in Florida. They're on the East Coast. So I tweeted this, but the most stressful time when you're on a show on the West Coast is texting with people on the East Coast.
Yes, right.
Because
they'll let you know.
They're 3 hours ahead.
Oh yeah.
So my dad and I are IMing, and he's just like, okay, hey, we just saw you, and I'm like, oh, okay, good, and a couple of seconds go by, and then I see the little ellipses, the progress,
the three blinking buttons of death.
So he's talking, and then it says, hey, so do you do anything else? Ooh. And I'd never been cut at that point, so I was all snarky and was like, well, of course I do something else, Dad. I wouldn't have told all these people to watch if I didn't do anything else.
And then
another 30 seconds went by, and I'm like, well, I know the scene's not this long. So I asked him, I'm like, hey, Dad, is she still in the hospital? Is Hart still in the hospital? And he went, no, she's on a bus.
They already signed her out, son. I don't know. Yeah. That's what happens sometimes. You just never know what it's going to be. You never know who it's going to be, and you never know if you're going to make the cut. And with voiceover, you know a little bit more. I mean, that's kind of the thing with voiceover is like if you're doing a commercial, you're in it, right? If you're doing, most of the times you're doing an animated series, it's rare when they cut you out.
Yeah, because it's rare. I mean, it can happen, but it is.
You've done it, right?
But it is rare.
Yeah. And that matters.
Oh, yeah, because if you don't show up, you don't get the residuals for that.
Exactly.
Or rather, if you're not in the credits, you don't get the residuals for that.
Right. I make sure I'm in the credits, whatever I do. Damn it. I don't do no 5 and unders. Anyway, so this week we're going to, for those of you who are new to the Geek Buddies, thank you so much for taking a chance for downloading us and watching us. Over 4,000 of you watched the episode we put up a couple of weeks ago, which is really great. Thank you so much. I think we're nearing 2,000 on the second episode, so thank you all so much. This is a show that's been going on for quite some time. Shannon and Mike and I have been friends for over 20 years. We're massive geeks, go to Comic-Con, do all kinds of stuff together, go see the movies, geek out, get involved in all this kind of stuff. All of our friends, or a lot of our friends rather, are into this kind of stuff as well. So we are seasoned professionals and veterans of the world of geek. And so we thought we'd finally put this thing together and do it, the three of us just talking. It was Infinity War that motivated us, right? Or was it Endgame?
I think it was Endgame.
Okay, so it was Endgame that motivated us to put this thing together way back in March of last year. And so we've been going strong ever since, every week.
But we've been talking about it for a while, and I think it was was it after Last Jedi where you and I and Vogel and Kalinowski went to Golden Road?
Yes.
And had sort of a conversation over drinks, and you had sort of the ambient noise of the restaurant in the background.
Yeah.
And that's when you were like, this is something that we should do all the time.
Yeah, I made it very clear. I felt like, there are other shows out there that talk geek stuff and nerd stuff and everything like that, but I think the unique nature of our show is that you have an executive like Michael Vogel, who's been an executive producer on a number of other projects. He's got the inside know-how of what it's like in the studio system. You got someone like you who's written all these animated shows. You've been in front of the camera. You know what it's like to go on these auditions and the grind and stuff. Plus, you've been following superhero stuff, comic book stuff, nerd stuff for many, many years. I mean, it's part of your thing. Same thing here. I kind of got seasoned to being, there it is. Oh, there it is. There you go. A little Aquaman action. Wow. Yeah. And he's showing people his shirt. For those of you who are listening to us on the podcast, he's showing his Aquaman shirt. His Schroeder, or is it Charlie Brown?
It's Charlie Brown
Aquaman shirt.
This was a gift from our geek buddy, Jonathan.
Yeah, he does. He gives great shirts.
A few Christmases ago.
So do you. And then me, of course, being a host and a producer and writer all over town with all this kind of stuff. I just thought, since we already do this already anyway, why not put it in, see if people like it? And, we've never had a negative comment. It's been kind of incredible as we've been building with Geek Buddy. So thanks so much for downloading another episode of the show. And thanks so much for watching another episode of the show here on the Outlaw Nation YouTube channel. But
thank you.
Anyway, we digress.
Let's
jump into our Geek Day. For those of you who are new to the show, what we do is we each talk about one geek news item this week. Usually it's 3 geek news items. Shannon's going to take 2 of them. I'm going to take 1 of them. Then we're going to jump into our main topic, and our main topic is going to be like kind of breaking down what happened with Birds of Prey. I think it's still fresh, or we think it's still fresh, to have this conversation about what happened, what could have happened, what does the name change mean, what's going to happen going forward, is there going to be a sequel, did they do right by the characters? We're going to break it all down and have a nice long conversation, not long, but necessarily good conversation about the whole thing. So anyway, all right, let's jump into it. What's our first thing, Shannon?
To start off, it was announced in Variety today that a sequel to Aladdin, the live-action adaptation of the classic Disney film that came out this past summer, starring Will Smith, it is in active development right now.
Wow.
Now, a lot of people assumed, because the movie did surprisingly make so much money, it's like, all right, well, this is inevitable. There's going to be a sequel to this. But today they went on record in the article that they are actively developing it. They haven't said if the cast is coming back, but one could assume you're not going to make Aladdin without Will Smith.
Right.
And also Naomi Scott and Mina Masood.
Oh, well.
Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Mina Masood. He can stop complaining now. He doesn't get auditions. He gets. I've spoken to a couple of people who've seen Mina at these auditions, and it's not like he's not getting auditions. What he's saying is he doesn't want to audition anymore. Yeah. So I mean, I get it, but
that was an interesting little thing that came out. Yeah. It was just like, he gave that quote at a junket for a show he was on.
For a show he was actually on.
I mean, he had shot it prior to Aladdin, but it was like, I don't feel that bad for you.
Yeah, you got to be aware of things, man. So, but it's great.
Well, but they're switching up writers. I believe it was it John August that did the first one, but now they're going to John Gattens, who actually has been nominated for an Academy Award with Flight, the Denzel Washington, Denzel Washington movie.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Andrea Berloff.
Oh, nice.
Who
I interviewed on the Deep Cut.
Yeah.
The Kitchen.
Yeah, The Kitchen also was nominated for. Did she win for Straight Outta Compton?
I think she did win for Straight Outta Compton. Yes.
So you have 2 Academy Award winners developing this movie. John,
pretty incredible.
What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think it's one of the most amazing things that's happened because nobody, and I mean nobody, all of us have said this numerous times in the sphere, thought that Aladdin was going to be a damn good movie. And it was a damn good movie. And people liked it. People enjoyed it. People had a good time with it. It was pretty surprising how well it did. So to see it kind of lead to a actual sequel to this movie, I think is incredibly surprising. No, I mean, I'm telling you, nobody expected this thing to be good. The trailers weren't great, but people came to it, right? This is inverse to Birds of Prey, where people didn't like those trailers, but then not enough people came to it. But for whatever reason, when people came to see Aladdin, they were surprised how good it was. They loved the charm of it. Mina Massoud was great. So was Naomi Scott. So was Will Smith. Will Smith was even more so a surprise to step into the shoes of Robin Williams and do such a great job. People liked the original song. That was whether it was placed at the right time in the movie. You can make an argument about that, but overall, yeah, there were some issues. Like the Jafar wasn't that really menacing, but they replaced the princess's storyline with this idea of her wanting to be the Shah. That was very progressive, very up to date, and people liked that. It felt natural. It didn't feel forced. It felt progressive without being. It felt organically progressive, and that's a positive.
Right.
And so I think what you saw here was that people liked these young characters, these young actors. People liked Will Smith's chemistry with them, and so the fact they're developing a sequel is no surprise to me. I think that's a positive overall, and we'll see what they do, because if they had a bar to jump over for the first one, they've got an even higher bar, I think, to jump over the second one, because we didn't see an Aladdin sequel that was straight to that was in the theaters. It was straight to DVD, The Return of Jafar or whatever.
Yeah, I think they had two.
Yeah, two of them, exactly.
They found Aladdin's dad or something.
Oh, right. But Robin Williams did not do the voices on either one of those.
Dan Castellaneta.
Yeah, Dan Castellaneta stepped in. So, and no surprise there. Great voiceover actor that he is. He's the voice of Homer Simpson, for those who don't know. And so what does this mean for the film overall? I think it's a great thing that it's happening. I want to, and this needs to go into production sooner rather than later, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's no word whether or not Guy Ritchie's going to be involved.
Right, if he's going to come back to direct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, I believe this is the second sequel that they've done with one of their live-action adaptations. The first sequel being the Maleficent.
Oh, right, yes.
Which
Mistress of Evil.
Don't think it didn't do terribly, but I don't think we're going to see a Maleficent 3.
I don't think so either. It didn't do as well as that first one, and the first one was pretty surprising as well.
Yeah.
So that could be the problem. It could come out, the sequel, and not do as well as the first one, and then that'll be that.
Yeah. But if there's, we're not really living in the age of the movie star anymore.
True.
Will Smith is about as guaranteed.
Yeah, him and Tom Cruise.
Yeah. And even with Will Smith, even Tom Cruise, American Made, Tom Cruise, that was a great movie that nobody saw.
True.
Will Smith was in Gemini Man. Not such a great movie.
Right.
Nobody saw it.
Yeah. So, they have their pitfalls, that's for sure. The other aspect of this thing, which I think is interesting, is will there be any backlash because of how people were upset about Lion King? And I think, and this is what's interesting too, you look at Aladdin veered away from some of the main story points in the original animated film. And that's a positive. Mulan looks like it's doing that. People are crazy excited for Mulan.
Mulan looks great.
Right? Jungle Book, too. Jungle Book did some different things with the original story. Lion King did not. So, although it made $1.6 billion worldwide, you got to look at this thing and be, well, Aladdin's got to stay that course of like doing its own thing. Now, there is no source material in the sequel unless they're going to do the Jafar stuff, Return of Jafar. But I hope they don't. I hope they create an original story and go with it from there.
My guess, because the guy who played Jafar did not bother me, but I understand that he was not as comical and not as menacing as he was in the animated film. But he's probably the guy. Yeah, I don't see them bringing him back because he was sort of the one element that most people, even the folks that did like it, were like, push him to the side. Right. Everything else is great.
Yeah. So if you do that and maybe replace it with a villain that's a little more menacing, maybe the white dude comes back.
What is it? Hans?
Yeah.
Prince Anders.
Yeah. Weren't they spinning it off to do his thing?
They had talked about it.
I think the reaction Disney was like, all right, let's not do that.
Well, that news came out at the same time as Mina Massoud saying that he hadn't gotten any auditions since Aladdin.
So maybe it was a coordinated shot by Mina to be like, hey, put me in the sequel.
Hey, Mickey.
Hey, Mickey. Hey, Big Ears. Put me in the sequel. Anyway, all right. Well, we'll see what happens. They don't have anything yet, right?
Nothing
no
yet.
Production date.
Nothing yet.
No.
They're not even sending scripts out to the cast.
Wow.
But they said they have been developing it for about the last 6 months.
Yeah, and I think I think maybe people saw Andrea Berloff's film, The Kitchen, and realized, well, maybe she should just write for a little bit, and we'll see what happens directing-wise down the road. It is an unfortunate situation. Plenty of male directors come out and direct crappy movies right off the bat and get multiple opportunities. Maybe Berloff will down the road get another opportunity to see what she can do. I enjoyed talking with her. She is a no-nonsense type of person. She drove herself to the interview. There was no publicist. There was nobody with her. Just rolled up in her. She had gotten breakfast at IKEA and rolled into the Collider Studios for me to interview her for Deep Cut. It was great.
Picked up some meatballs in a shoe rack.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I loved it. I love how no nonsense she was. Drove away in her little puttering car. But she is someone who's a good writer and a hard worker. And so I hope nothing but the best for Andrea Berloff, and I hope she knocks it out of the park with this one, because Disney money is good money. If you do well, maybe she's got some points or something in the deal for herself as a writer. We'll see. And speaking of writers or distinct writers, let's move on to our second Geek News item, and that's the new trailer for The French Dispatch of Buffalo, New York, I think is what it's called. It was, or Paris, France. Is it Paris, France?
I think it's in Paris.
In Paris, yeah. But it dropped this morning, Wes Anderson's new film. I said it when I did my live stream for Mornings with the Outlaw. This is one of the most Wes Anderson films I've ever seen. It's making no pretense to be anything but absolutely damn adorkable and cute. There's no pretense to have some kind of really complex story here, although it is kind of melding in some actual things that happened. The May '68 riots in France, which was like where Charles de Gaulle took off from the country because there were protests about the economy. The economy halted, and people thought that there was going to be another French Revolution. This is in 1968, when Vietnam is happening, the Tet Offensive, all this stuff's going on around the world. The Martin Luther King assassination, the Robert Kennedy assassination, a lot of stuff going on in 1968 around the world. So this is an interesting situation to put this film in. And of course, there's all this other stuff wrapped. There's apparently 3 different storylines running through this whole movie, but this thing is chock full of the Wes Anderson actors with some new actors to the Wes Anderson world, which I really appreciated. What did you think of the trailer?
You know what? I think this, as you put it very, very well, this is the most Wes Anderson movie there's ever been. This looks like a hipster fever dream.
It really does. Like you can see the cocktails with a little handlebar mustache. And shit. Oh yes, are you going to see The French Dispatch? Here you go.
But you've got new players: Timothy Chalamet, Jeffrey Wright,
which we've never seen.
Has Benicio del Toro ever been in one of his films?
I want to say no.
Yeah, I don't recall him being in one of them. Elizabeth Moss pops in.
Yes, Moss is in there.
As a filmmaker, I think Wes Anderson has such a specific way of telling a story and such a specific aesthetic. It's not always for me. Mm-hmm. I did really like the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
That is by far my favorite Wes Anderson film, shortly followed by Moonrise Kingdom.
Right.
But I remember when I went to go see the Royal Tannenbaums, I went and saw Rushmore, and I knew that I was supposed to like it because everyone was just like, this is so great. And about half an hour in, I'm like, that's just not as funny as I thought it was going to be. And by the time Jason Schwartzman and Bill Murray are kind of taking shots at each other, I'm like, okay, it's kind of funny, but I went and saw the Royal Tannenbaums by myself. It was when I was in school, and after about 45 minutes, I dozed off.
Oh.
And then I woke up for the end, and I loved it.
Wow.
And I was like, well, that was amazing. I got to bring all my buddies to see this. And then that middle 45 minutes that I fell asleep for, they were like, this is a piece of crap. What is wrong with you? And I'm like, yeah, I don't really remember this part. But that being said, he has a very, very loyal audience.
Yeah.
If you buy into his world, if you're a fan of that, I think the trailer looks fantastic. I love sort of the ultra stylized way that the characters deliver their dialogue.
Yes.
Just that exchange between Benicio del Toro and Adrian Brody is so...
It's for sale. It isn't for sale.
No, it isn't.
Of course it is.
No, it isn't.
Of course it is.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, right. That stuff you see, and that was in Grand Budapest as well. You saw those exchanges in Grand Budapest a couple of times as well.
Yeah.
They decorate the Wes Anderson movies. I agree. I am his audience. I enjoy his movies. There's only been 2 that I haven't liked. Ironically, Bottle Rocket is one I do not like. And the Darjeeling Limited, 30 minutes in, I was like, I don't give a fuck what happens to any of these people. and turned it off. Right? And I like Life Aquatic for its swings. It takes big swings to break the mold of the Wes Anderson movies up to that point. So I appreciate it for that.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm a big fan of Royal Tenenbaums. I do not find it boring at all. I like it a lot. I love Rushmore. Big fan of Moonrise Kingdom. Big fan of Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I think
Fantastic Mr. Fox is really good.
Right? I think so. Whenever I stumble upon that, I will spend half an hour watching that film if I'm flipping channels or whatever.
Isle of Dogs?
Isle of Dogs I love too.
Did you really?
I really enjoyed the piss out of that film.
Okay.
I went to see it on a date before I was with Lindley. And I was watching it, and I was having a grand old time. I really was. I really enjoyed the voiceover work by everybody in that film. I enjoyed the stop motion of the dogs, the story, everything. I'm a Japanophile anyway. I think that's what it's called. And so for me, anything Japanese related it already has my interest.
Right.
So the way it was all set up and the designs and everything like that, with the cat versus the dogs and all that, just kind of appealed to me. So you have to go really far for me not to like a Wes Anderson film. He has to go really out there. Or make me really not care about anybody. And the thing about this film is, what I was reading is it's dedicated to his love of the New Yorker. And, the New Yorker is those cartoons and the quick little articles or the longer, more investigative articles. So in essence, he's turning this movie into a magazine. So this will be fascinating. Bill Murray being the editor of the magazine. He's an American in a French city trying to navigate what's happening around him, and an incredible Tilda Swinton, Jason Schwartzman's in this, like you said, Jeffrey Wright, and this is nice to see a little more diverse cast as well. I mean, that's one of the things that people knock about Wes Anderson is he doesn't usually put people of color in his movies. Danny Glover and his son, and the actor who plays his son, are the only people of color in Royal Tenenbaums, unless you, of course, the Indian gentleman who is his
Sikh.
friend.
Sikh. I think he's
Sikh. Sorry.
Yeah.
The Sikh gentleman who is Hackman's friend, right? So we see him, but most of the time he's not. The voiceover stuff in Fantastic Mr. Fox, I don't think there's anybody who is of color in the whole movie. So you have this throughout, and so I like that he's getting. And I've never knocked him for it, and I don't think anybody should knock him for it. To me, I think he's like the Woody Allen of our time. Like everybody wants to be in his cute little independent films, and he gets these big stars to come in and do like 5 lines or 1-2 scenes, and
like you get Bruce Willis to come in and give this very sort of stylized performance, and like he's notoriously kind of difficult to work with.
Yes.
So the fact that Bruce Willis agreed to do it, but agreed to do it Wes Anderson's way.
Right.
I think that really says something about him as a storyteller, but also him probably as a person.
And I also think Wes Anderson is definitely a little bit of a mini Tarantino. He finds these actors that used to be big, recently big, and then puts them back in his movies. He resuscitated Edward Norton. Norton wasn't doing shit after his run there. He started popping up in some weird movies. You're like, what are you doing in this? Like the Jason Bourne movie. You're like, what are you doing in this? This is not you were the lead of Primal Fear, American History X. What are you doing playing some CIA agent who's put upon in this movie? It's stupid. But Wes Anderson found the great humor in Edward Norton. Edward Norton kind of surrenders himself to the material, and he's charming to watch when he's in a Wes Anderson movie. And I think Adrian Brody, the same thing happened for him in Grand Budapest Hotel, right? Adrian Brody was doing these terrible horror movies or thriller movies that nobody was going to see. They're going straight to DVD, puts him in this. Now he's in another one, and we fall back in love with Adrian Brody as an actor. So in some small way, like Tarantino did with Travolta and Robert Forster and Pam Grier, Wes Anderson kind of does that. Just like, and Woody did the same thing with some actors too, bringing them back after a while, what have you. So I like that he does that.
Right.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see.
And it's coming out this summer.
It is coming out this summer. I hope to God I get to cover it. I hope the Outlaw Nation grows big enough that the publicists will invite me to their junkets for this one, because I really want to do the junket of a Wes Anderson film. That would be a lot of fun. We'll see. What's our third Geek News item?
Okay, so we found out that Scott Derrickson had left the director's position at Doctor Strange 2 a few weeks ago.
Son of a bitch!
Yeah, that it was creative differences, but he was staying on as an EP.
What does that mean?
Well,
one too many spells.
Well, the thing,
I like Doctor Strange.
You see the way that Doctor Strange, they might be positioning him for the larger story in the MCU.
Yes.
And how they're having to squeeze a lot of stuff, and how they said it's going to tie into WandaVision. We've heard that it might tie into Loki.
Yes.
So Scott Derrickson left, And it was announced a week ago. He's not signed yet, but Sam Raimi is in negotiations. Now, this is kind of old news, but there's a little bit coming after it.
Okay.
So, yeah, Sam Raimi could possibly be making his first comic book film since Spider-Man 3 for the MCU. He might be the director for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So that's the first part of this. What do you think of this choice, John?
Well, I wasn't as crazy as the nerds on the internet. I wasn't. My fellow nerds on the internet. I don't want to objectify my fellow nerds and geeks on the internet. I was not over the moon about this choice. And I'll tell you this. Sam Raimi to me is like Guillermo del Toro. Incredible amount of potential. And when he gets it right, you love it. But when he doesn't get it right, which is more often than not, you're not the biggest fan of it, to be honest with you. You know, what do people talk about? Spider-Man 2 doesn't hold up as well as it did before. No one talks about Spider-Man 1 anymore, really. Spider-Man 3 certainly kind of destroyed him. He did come back with Ash vs. Evil Dead, but how many people were clamoring for Oz the Great and Powerful or defending that movie?
Right.
He did Drag Me to Hell, which a lot of people love. And then Evil Dead 2. People like Army of Darkness, I'd take it or leave it. So for me, it's and the same thing with Del Toro. There's a lot of misses in Del Toro's resume. Crimson Peak, there's a lot of these things, but then he does something like Shape of Water, and you're like, wow, so this is what he can do with a film. So I find this interesting, too, because it's an older director coming into this situation. I like that they were kind of skewing with these younger 30-year-olds who had a kind of more vibrant approach to the material. And so I like the first Doctor Strange. I thought Derrickson really nailed it. So for me, I'm concerned about what aesthetic Sam is going to bring. Remember Darkman? Darkman is fun because it's cheesy.
Right.
Don't make Doctor Strange cheesy. My man is working on multiple mystical levels. I don't want cheeseball shit in Doctor Strange.
You and I are of a like mind on this because I saw that, and I think the initial instinct when you see Sam Raimi doing a film for the MCU is like, oh my God, awesome. But then it's like, okay, he's coming into a world that's already been established. Yeah. And yeah, there is, not with all of his films, but there is an inherent campiness with this type of film when he's doing it. I think about some of the visuals that were in Darkman that he also used in the first Spider-Man movie, like the equations flying across the screen and stuff like that. And knowing that initially, like Scott Derrickson's, I think, intention with Doctor Strange for this adventure was to make it a little scarier.
Yeah.
And granted, Sam Raimi does know how to make a scary movie.
Certainly, Drag Me to Hell proves that.
But there's a little bit of a silliness to it.
And that's the thing I want to avoid.
Exactly.
I think Ragnarok worked because Chris Hemsworth can play those kinds of things, and it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
The kind of cheesiness or the kind of silliness of it. But it works because he doesn't lose the aesthetic of still being the baddest mofo in the room when he wants to be, right?
Right.
With Doctor Strange and Cumberbatch, I think you can, because already that accent, that American accent of his, isn't the greatest American accent. So if you want to start adding silly stuff to it, I worry about what can happen. But a lot of people are rumbling that the reason they brought him on is because they're going to close the loop here on the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and that he may appear as one of the Spider-Man in the Multiverse of Madness coming in, that all three of them, Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland, will be a part of this movie. So if that, and Feige worked with Raimi in the past. I don't know if it was on a Spider-Man movie, but he worked with him in the past. So this may be, hey, this is an interesting situation. Do you want to come direct it? Wash Spider-Man 3 finally out of people's mouths or minds and kick ass with this film and kind of close the loop with Tobey on your Spider-Man. That would be fun. Because, I mean, Boss Logic did a fantastic piece where you have this circle, the orange circle that he uses, right, for the portals, and you see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suit coming out into the city, like shooting out into the city. And I was like, oh, now I'm interested. So that could sell me on it if he's going to do that. If they're going to do that, good God Almighty, people are going to lose their ever-loving minds.
Well, they also have a new writer.
Yes.
Apparently, Scott Derrickson and his writing partner, his name is escaping me right now, apparently they never even turned in a draft of the script.
Wow.
Which, when you're putting, I mean, I don't have a lot of future experience, but when we're putting an episode together, you always start with an outline.
Yeah.
And before you start writing the script, you get notes on that outline. And you find out what the studio likes, what they don't like.
Right.
So the fact that these guys never even wrote a draft kind of tells me that as they're figuring out where Phase 4, Phase 5 are going to go, that they're like, all right, we have to add this, we have to add this, we have to add this, and maybe that's where Scott Derrickson was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
So the writer that they have tapped to replace him is Michael Waldron, who is the head writer on the upcoming Loki series.
Oh, wow.
So it's not been corroborated at all that Loki is going to tie into Doctor Strange. That's just something I heard.
Right.
But if that is true, then it's like, okay, it makes sense that the guy who's spearheading this one project is now going to go to Doctor Strange.
Well, it also makes sense because they talked about how WandaVision was kind of lay the groundwork for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So if WandaVision is also connected to Loki and that whole Marvel TV Disney Plus thing, then it makes sense to have someone who is from that universe kind of be one of the writers or the head writer for this particular version of the film. So why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, someone who's engrossed and is already working with the storylines within the Disney Plus shows, they could probably be just as well, they could do just as well, rather, knowing what to do on a feature film aspect, transporting that onto the feature film of Doctor Strange.
Transporting?
Oh. Hey.
For all of our podcast listeners, I was doing the Doctor Strange portal sling ring.
On your left. Do you like this? Do you like it?
I mean, I like him as a writer. He also used to write for Rick and Morty.
Oh.
So that tells me that he's very intelligent. But that comedy, I'm like, I don't know.
All right,
we'll see. I mean, I was a big fan of the first Doctor Strange movie as well. I love him popping up in other Marvel movies. I hope it's fantastic.
Yeah, I hope so too. Certainly. And our job is to look at it and give our honest opinions here on the show. That's our honest opinions on the show. It could go badly, but it could very well be great. Could close the loop for a lot of people and could leave a lot of nerds feeling really good, and like I was hoping Star Wars would do by bringing Hayden Christensen back, and they didn't do it. So, I mean, who knows? They could happen here with Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi with another Spider-Man film. All right. Or Doctor Strange film, Spider-Man in it. All right. Let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. We'll jump into our main topic after this. But for those of you watching us on the YouTube show, and we're back. Well. All right. Thank you so much for continuing to listen to the show or watch the show. We're at the 31-minute mark. We really appreciate it. All your support and all your love. Let's move on to the main topic. And the main topic is Birds of Prey. Not necessarily getting so much support and so much love from the movie-going public. Certainly
in general.
Yeah. Certainly the critics have enjoyed it. It's at 80%, I think, at Rotten Tomatoes right now. The cinema score is strong, but unfortunately, the box office was not as strong. 32.25 million, I think, is what it was on opening weekend. It had been projected from anywhere to 50 to 55. So really a surprising $20 million kind of underperforming film in terms of that. Look, it was made for just under $100 million, but you always got to factor in 2.5 times plus maybe a little extra half for marketing before a film sees any kind of profit. I personally don't think it's going to have any legs. I think no matter what they do with this thing, it's kind of dead in the water right now. They tried the name change. It's not official, by the way. This was just done by theater chains.
Yeah, and not all theater chains.
And not all theater, right, exactly. So we'll see if that really leads to anything down the road. But overall, kind of a shock. What's your impression about all this?
Yeah, well, we went to that screening together.
Yes, we did.
And the marketing in general, you and I were, again, of a like mind that was kind of like, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
You and I, and more you, I think, really mentioned the fact, like, all of the trailers, it's just her. It's just her. Like, you're not really giving any of the other characters. You're not even really introducing them.
Yeah.
I don't think the name change. I mean, when people go to the movies, I would say 99.9% of the time they know what they're going to see.
Yes, of course.
They're not looking at a marquee and saying, what should we see today?
Yeah.
So I don't know what good that name change is going to do. Like, I did say after we saw the film, I'm like, you really should have called it Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey.
Right.
Not so much from a marketing standpoint, but more just like that's what the story is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Harley Quinn's story. The Birds of Prey are a little bit, I mean, they're players, but I mean, they're a little bit of an afterthought. I mean, it's her story.
Yeah. And we're not going to spoil the movie. We're just going to have a discussion about it. So just want to let people know, right?
Yeah, no spoilers.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. But yeah, I mean, basically, if you saw the marketing and thought like, this is pretty much just the Harley Quinn movie, you're right. I mean, that's what it was. Yeah. And it's not a bad film. I mean,
no.
It's I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I went and saw it once it came out, just by myself, when I heard it was doing so badly. I went and saw it alone because I was like, you know what, I want to go and support this.
Yeah, sure.
Because I didn't think it was a bad film. I like DC Comics. I want to see more DC Comics make the transition to the big screen. Man, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there was a hashtag called like when you go woke, you go broke or something. That.
Which I've seen that hashtag, and that hashtag is selectively used, right? Because like if you go woke, you go broke. Last I checked, Captain Marvel crossed $1 billion. Wonder Woman made that kind of money. Black Panther was nominated for a Best Picture.
Yeah.
So don't give me that. That hashtag is used by trolls for certain situations where they think it's been proven across the board, and they're conveniently using for one particular example. It's not true. Now, that being said, I understand the sentiment of it, right? You got to be clear on this. I was talking with a couple of people earlier today at UCLA at that Harry Potter dinner because they know me, so they were asking me questions about this kind of stuff, and I heard from them exactly what I think the problem is. You can be progressive in your movies. The issue is when it feels shoehorned or shoved in, or you're being preached to, and it doesn't feel organic to the story, then it becomes a problem. Like these immediate bashing men moments, or these immediate empowerment moments that come at the expense and feel shoved in rather than built to. That's where I think people get turned off by that kind of stuff.
Did you feel like there were a lot of those moments?
Not at all, and that's why I think it's unfair.
I did,
and that's why I think it's unfair to vilify this movie for that. I don't think there was. Yes, is every man in the movie pretty much a villain? Yes, except for maybe the guy who owns the Thai restaurant or whatever. Not necessarily a villain, but he does something that veers into the questionable territory. But overall, all the dudes are pretty much, they're even making fun of Montoya. Certainly, Black Canary is working for Ewan McGregor's Black Mask. She's subjected to some abuse there. Harley Quinn is being chased down by everybody because the Joker's no longer her boyfriend, and all this stuff's in the trailers. And Huntress is kind of figuring out what she's got to do next. So there's a lot. Everyone's getting emancipated. It isn't just Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's anti-men like people were saying. It can be a feminist movie without being anti-men. Those two things don't necessarily connect, and so that's where I thought it was a bit unfair. Some of the fans I saw online who were saying, it's an anti-men movie, or some of the comments made by some of the actresses that they're misconstruing as saying, it's against men. It's not. It's just saying,
I didn't get that sense at all.
What did you think? Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, do you think, because Suicide Squad, which made a lot of money, but was sort of universally reviled.
Even Kalinowski hates that film. He doesn't hate DC films. So.
Do you think that audiences were not necessarily inclined to see the movie because of Suicide Squad? Because it did have somewhat of a similar aesthetic. You are taking one of the bright spots of that movie and giving her own movie, but maybe it was like, nah, I saw it before and I didn't like it, so why...
It's a good point, because certainly the film has the vibe of Suicide Squad, the kind of weird, unsettled things that happen, or it's like this the whole time. The movie is just like, and there's a lot of action, there's a lot of vibrancy, Technicolor, some weird kind of villainous stuff going on with Black Mask, cutting people's faces off. It's brutal in that way. But so it has that vibe of Suicide Squad that was that way as well, kind of disjointed and some violent scenes or whatever. But this is a way better film than Suicide Squad, in my opinion. Certainly a more interesting film, and a film that you can follow and enjoy, and a villain that is worth it, who doesn't do this the whole time. So I enjoyed that in this film. But yeah, you bring up a good point. What are the factors here? Was it the fact that it was a sequel, in essence, a sequel to Suicide Squad? I don't know if that's part of it. It could be possibly part of it. The other part of it that a lot of people have been banging the drum about, which I think I'm on that in that camp as well, is that why would you make this movie R-rated? There are young girls who love Harley Quinn who now have to have their fathers go see the movie first, before they can bring their daughters. And I wouldn't bring a 12-year-old to this movie. In no way would I bring a 12 or 13-year-old to this movie. There's a lot of blood and violence and gore and cuss words and inappropriate situations. And for a 12 or 13-year-old, I don't care how advanced they are about the world.
Yeah.
I would not want to bring my 12 or 13-year-old to this movie. And not because it doesn't have a good empowering message. I think it does. If I had a daughter, this would be a good movie for her to see at 15 or 16 years old when she's processed a little more of the violence or whatever in school or in movies or in TV. Then she could enjoy this kind of thing. But a 12 or 13-year-old or a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, I would not bring them anywhere near this movie.
Yeah, there is a lot of language in it. I didn't think the violence was that bad. I mean, there are a couple of moments with Black Mask, and there are a couple of moments where Harley is, dishing out some punishment.
Yes, she is.
But for the most part, I'm like, this is mainly, like, there are F-bombs aplenty.
Yeah.
And F-bombs can be funny.
Yes.
Would it have been as funny if she didn't drop the F-bomb? I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I do think outside of the possibility of a sequel to Joker, I imagine this is probably the last R-rated DC movie that we've seen.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, because you make an interesting point because Joker made $1 billion.
Yeah,
and it's R-rated, but that's Joker, right? Harley Quinn, and that's another thing.
But we're saying that after the fact, like people didn't know that.
Very true, Shannon. Absolutely, no. Everyone was worried about it, whether it was even going to make any money, whether it was going to turn a profit. But you also bring up something kind of indirectly, and that is the Joker is a way larger name in the world of movie-going public. Since 1989. We have seen, since 1960s, we've seen a version of Joker either on the TV screen or on the movie screen. And so he's been in our lives and in our parents' lives for multiple decades on screen. Yes, he's been longer decades in print, but certainly on screen. So he's a well-known character, a quantity. Harley Quinn has just come on in the early 90s on the animated series. So I don't think she's built up the same kind of name recognition as Joker or Batman to the point where people would come to go and see this movie and put it over $1 billion.
I don't know, though, because think about prior to the release of Deadpool, who do you think was more well-known, Deadpool or Harley Quinn? I mean, granted,
Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah, hands down.
So Deadpool, I mean, I don't think it made
But
$1 billion.
I would say Ryan Reynolds is more well-known than Margot Robbie at that time. If you're comparing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely a comparison, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wonder why a bunch of like gal groups didn't go out and see this.
Yeah, right. It's a good point, right? I mean, yes, you do shut out some of the 14, 13, 12, 15-year-old girls, 10-year-olds, whatever, but where is the girl power in this? Because you look at the statistics, and Scott Mendelson wrote about this in Forbes, 54% of the audience was male.
Yeah.
18 to 49. 54% of the audience was male that went to go see this movie. And that's kind of surprising that women didn't go at a higher level at 60%, like they probably did for, I imagine that they did. I don't have the stats raw in front of me, but I know that I've seen it before for Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman, so men came out to see this movie.
Yeah.
So this idea that, men don't go see these movies, we'll see. Someone commented on my stream that, older women wait till the opening weekend is over, then go see the movie. Okay. We'll see what happens in the second weekend. If this thing drops precipitously, then that argument holds no weight and no water, rather. And so that's where you come back to why weren't more of these, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds going at girls' night and then going over and over again. Because the thing we've seen with DC movies, and especially with the Joker, Shannon, people went back to see DC movies over and over and over again, but for Aquaman, for Joker,
for Wonder Woman.
But Shazam, not as much.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn, not as much. So what is it about these films, those two films, that separates them from Joker and from Aquaman and from Wonder Woman and what have you?
Man, I don't know, because obviously I'm an Aquaman fan.
Yeah.
I thought Birds of Prey and Shazam were way better
than Aquaman.
Oh yeah,
I agree with you 1,000%.
Because
about waterlogged.
I mean, Aquaman was long too.
Yeah, dude.
Like I'll go. I'm a single man in my 40s, so I have the freedom to go see a movie as many times as I would like to go see it. So I will go see things 2 and 3 and 4 times. Yeah. And Aquaman, I think I did it twice, maybe 3 times. But after a while, I'm like, oh boy, this is another like 2.5 hour trip to Atlantis. I don't know if I got it in me.
No, dog.
Like, I'm definitely going to go see Birds of Prey. I'll go see Birds of Prey again.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. And that's what I think is the shame of it overall, is that this is a good film. And I think everybody's waiting with bated breath to see what happens in the second weekend. Yeah. There's not already Sonic the Hedgehog is going to defeat it. That was prognosticated today.
Really?
Already. It's tracking it higher than Birds of Prey. It's tracking for a possible $40 million opening.
Wow.
For Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's so surprising. Yeah. I didn't think kids still cared about Sonic.
I know. I mean, it's incredible, right? And it may bear out fruit that them going back and changing the look of Sonic the Hedgehog was the smart move, because now people are going to go see the movie, and maybe it'll make them. And if it does, because everyone was saying that Birds of Prey doesn't have much competition until blah, 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 until like March. Until March. And it's like, no, here comes Sonic the Hedgehog, who's going to, because if it's a good movie and it's a funny movie and people enjoy it and want to take their family to go see it, there's your money. There's your money that could have gone to Birds of Prey. If you toned down a little bit of the violence and made it PG-13, there's the people that could have gone to go see your movie, because it didn't. That's another thing. It didn't have to be R-rated. We have the R-rated TV series already going on DC Universe. This didn't have to be R-rated. From what I remember in Suicide Squad, she doesn't cuss up a storm. She uses her bat, right? There is fighting, but she doesn't overtly create like pools of blood wherever she goes. So there didn't need to necessarily be an R rating on this one.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were flexing their muscles, or maybe Margot Robbie. And look, this has got to be said. Margot Robbie is the executive producer of this thing. She is the star of this show, this film rather. From what I understand, from what I've read, she was very integral in getting Kathy Ann signed as the director of this movie. So a lot of this weight falls on her shoulders, and she has to shoulder the blame, and for lack of a better term. And nobody better come at me and be like, oh, she's only getting abused because she's a woman, or getting questioned because she's a woman. Bullshit. Any man who does these kinds of things gets questioned. Now, will she get the same opportunities to keep messing up like men do? That's the separate conversation. But she certainly deserves some kind of questioning over her decision-making in making this thing an R-rated movie.
Right.
I think so.
Well, I mean, but that might not have been unilaterally her decision.
Well, fair.
As well.
I don't know. I don't know what her part in the process is. But her being an executive producer on the film, I feel like she carried weight. Yeah, Margot Robbie has her own production company. She carries weight.
Well, and like you think about Deadpool 2, which Deadpool 2 made a good chunk of money.
Sure.
But the fact that Tim Miller left over creative differences.
Yeah, Ryan forced him out.
Yeah. And that it did not, I mean, that's why they did that PG-13 cut with Fred Savage. Be like, all right, let's see if we can squeeze a little more money out of it.
Out of this thing. Yeah.
I mean, maybe... Do they try to do a PG-13 cut of Birds of Prey?
Oof, God, but no, I think you just have to take the loss and move on. This changing the title thing, if they cut it to a PG-13, I mean, people are very reticent to go back and give something else a second chance after they've moved on. It's very tough, But
let me ask you about the Snyder Cut, John.
That's different. That is so different. So different. Someone posted some fan art either this morning or yesterday of Superman in the black suit leading the Justice League against Darkseid.
Yeah.
And I lost my mother effing mind. I get it. But that's an unfinished thing. There's a difference between, like, Justice League is what PG-13 Deadpool 2 felt like.
Right.
And Justice League is what Birds of Prey PG-13 might feel like. Because remember, they brought Chad Stahelski back in during the reshoots because they didn't have enough Birds of Prey in the movie. So they had to kind of shoot some sequences and stunts and fights and whatever to make sure all 4 of them fought together as the Birds of Prey.
Right.
So... And, someone was complaining to me as well that they felt the film was a bit ableist. By the way, I had no idea what this term was till this morning. And it's for people who are disabled, looking at a character that is disabled and having that character not be portrayed disabled on screen. And apparently Cassandra Cain is like a deaf mute who becomes an assassin and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So they felt like the portrayal of Cassandra Cain being the sidekick of Harley Quinn as the movie goes on didn't kind of took away that angle of Cassandra Cain. So I don't think there's people banging on the door going, that's not my Cassandra Cain, but certainly that's a thing that could be a strike against the film for some people who like Cassandra Cain.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's something. So certainly opened some fissures, this film, for sure. And what do you think happened? What do you think happened?
Man, I don't know.
Okay.
I think it comes down to the R rating. It comes down to the marketing. I mean, people, for whatever reason, we're not excited to see this film, and because we live in a little bit of a bubble out here, we take for granted that if the marketing doesn't impress people, and that the general movie-going public, they're not going to spend their money to go see it. There's too much good stuff on Netflix and Hulu.
It really is.
You don't need to spend $40 to take a date to a movie.
Well, that's what I mean. If they cycle back to this thing and make it a PG-13, they shoot themselves in the foot, and they're basically admitting we messed it up the first time. And I know you bring up Snyder Cut again. That would be if they released a Snyder Cut, Warner Brothers would be saying essentially we messed this up the first time. Someone tweeted at me something that someone made a comment about it's possibly coming on HBO Max, and I'm like, I just don't think it could be. I just don't think it's possible.
I don't think a Snyder Cut version of Justice League is going to be a groundswell of subscriptions for HBO Max.
Yeah,
I think people are going to get HBO Max because they want to get HBO Max.
Right. Fair. Well, where do we go from here with Birds of Prey? Do you think, I mean, obviously she's going to be in Suicide Squad too, but do you think there's a sequel to Birds of Prey that could be salvaged here if they kind of make some tweaks?
I think if that second weekend drop is like 40%.
Yeah. Okay. Then maybe there's a possibility.
Yeah.
If it's 70, is it done? It's a Harley Quinn movie. I don't think a Harley Quinn movie is done. Maybe a Birds of Prey movie is done.
I don't see a Harley Quinn movie coming after this. Wow. Honestly. Okay. I think they will give the character and the property a rest.
Okay.
But think about movies, and granted, it's not normal, but like The Greatest Showman. The Greatest Showman opened at number 4, and then it did not leave the top 5 for months.
Yep.
So it's possible. Like, I haven't been checking the Box Office Mojo to see how it's doing day after day.
Right.
But it has good word of mouth.
Yeah.
It has really good word of mouth.
People like it. That's for sure.
I mean, it's not a Charlie's Angels situation. Like, I went and saw that solo because I was curious.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't a great movie. And it's not the cinematic pariah that people made it out to be.
Right.
But I'm like, this isn't that great.
Okay.
So my hope is that Birds of Prey has a very small drop and that we will get to see more of these characters. I'd like to see the Oracle that lives in this world.
Yeah.
The Lady Blackhawk.
The Lady Blackhawk is part of this. But yeah, absolutely. Barbara Gordon. You want to see Barbara Gordon?
That's Oracle.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to see where the numbers are. They're projecting Sonic the Hedgehog to between $43 and $48 million.
Mm-hmm.
The Photograph is being projected 13 to 18 million. Blumhouse's Fantasy Island from 12 to 17 million. Remember, this is a holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Downhill is about 2 to 5 million. By the way, go see Downhill. I'm doing a review for that on the channel tomorrow and dropping it on Friday morning. But I liked it.
Yeah.
A lot. So there you go. But they don't have a projection for Harley Quinn at this point. They're just saying they hope it holds on and does what it needs to do. But right now, they're looking like it's not even going to break even. Like it's barely going to break even is what they're projecting.
Well, yeah, I know it had a soft international launch too.
Yeah.
Right? It was like 48 million. It didn't come out in Japan yet.
Right. Well, that was in the coronavirus apparently has been affecting that as well. Sonic anywhere between 33 and 38, 40 to 43. So you're hearing multiple numbers, but the numbers are high. So that's not a negative for Sonic the Hedgehog. My God, if it opens higher than Birds of Prey opened, that's a statement.
Family movie.
Yeah, true. Wow. Yeah, all right. We'll see what happens with this thing. We'll see what happens with Birds of Prey this weekend and where it ends up falling. But it's certainly not feeling like it's going to pick up steam. But like you said, you never know. Greatest Showman, all that kind of stuff. You never know. So, and hopefully there's some lessons to be learned here. And I don't think you can bring back the old DC narratives off of this either. Like, oh, they don't know what they're doing or blah, blah, blah. They took a chance. R-rated movie. They had a good star, Margot Robbie. They had Ewan McGregor coming in as the villain. Yeah, you've got Journey Smollett-Bell. You've got Mary Elizabeth Winstead, not as well known. Rosie Perez hasn't really been a strong actress, and a strong presence, as an actress in the last 15 years. So, they took some chances here, and I like the chances they took. I enjoyed the movie for what it was. But in the end, I wonder what the lessons are to take from this.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed. If you for Valentine's weekend, you want to go see a movie,
why not?
Go see Birds of Prey.
Yeah. Take your lady to see Birds of Prey. She'll thank you for it. You never know. Yeah, because Downhill's not a Valentine's movie either from that trailer. So
just because it comes out on Valentine's weekend doesn't make it a Valentine's movie.
Exactly. All right. Well, we're at 55 minutes. You want to wrap it up here? You feel good company? We'll talk about anything else. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening or watching this episode of the Geek Buddies. We always appreciate you taking the time to download it and watch it now recently. It means a lot. Leave us some comments in the comment section below if you're watching it on YouTube, or tweet at us some of your comments. What do you think about what we talked about what happened with Birds of Prey, about the Spider-Man stuff with Sam Raimi and Doctor Strange, the French Dispatch,
Aladdin 2.
And Aladdin 2, all of that. Let us know what you think in the comment section, or tweet, or send us a message on Instagram. How can they do that, Shannon?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's @geek_buddies, on Instagram, @the_geek_buddies. If you would like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's @Shannon_McClung, on Instagram, @Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it's @The Rocha Says. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it's @NKToon. And I will be on the Goldbergs next week, next Wednesday.
Yeah, and if you want to go back and see him on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, him and Joe Latrulio going at it, really funny scenes there from Shannon McClung, who is a fantastic actor. And hey, that tweet got a lot of likes, Shannon.
It did. It did. It's over 1,800.
1,800?
Yeah.
Wow. We got to get it up to 4,000. That'll be a good number for that tweet as well.
I'm just going to start putting up old pictures of me with actors.
Yeah, whatever it takes, man.
Just going to be shameless.
And if you're listening to us on any of your podcast apps, or please, for God's sakes, give us a like down there, give us some stars, some ratings, and then write us a review. It always helps when you write us a review because it pushes the visibility of the show higher up in that particular section of film and television. So it doesn't matter if it's iTunes or anything else, we really appreciate you giving a little bit of love on that end. All right, and that's it for us here at the Geek Buddies. Hope Mike comes back safe, and we will be back with another episode for you next week. Oh, one last thing, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Down there, hit that red button, hit subscribe. If you enjoy the content, enjoy the Geek Buddies content, there'll be more coming from us on camera down the road as well, reviews, what have you. We're going to do the Picard one, I think, next week. We'll do a Picard review next week of episodes 3 and 4.
Picard episode 3.
That was a good episode.
That was good.
Damn good episode. There's your mini review right there. Damn good episode. Watch it. We did a 1 and 2 review that's on the podcast. We didn't put that on camera. We will put 3 and 4 on camera. So there'll be more coming down the pike. So give some love to the Geek Buddies on that end. All right. That's it. We'll talk to you next time on The Geek Buddies. Hey!